In a dry village where the rains had not touched soil for years, an old farmer named Bovan held a single seed in his hand, believing it still held a future. While others marked his dusty clothes and calloused hands, Bovan whispered to the seed daily, "You are my hope," and gently placed it into a cracked, barren piece of land. Children laughed, villagers pitied, and some threw stones near the tiny patch. But Bovan returned every morning with a part of saved water and dreams stronger than the sun's heat. His son, Kavi, frustrated by their poverty, shouted, "Father, that seed won't feed us." But Bovan smiled. A seed feeds more than hunger feeds belief. The wind blew hard. The soil cracked more each day. Yet Bovan shielded the spot with an umbrella made from torn cloth and sticks, his dedication standing tall like a warrior's flag. On the 10th day, a green sprout peeped from the earth, fragile but alive, just like the dream that refused to die inside Bovan's weathered chest. The sprout, though small, drew curious eyes. Villagers slowed their walk to glimpse the impossible life born from dust, proof that effort could still bloom in hopelessness. Kavi, now silent, watched his father sing to the plant. For the first time, he felt ashamed of his doubt and touched the ground with reverence. When a storm brewed, villagers panicked and ran for shelter. Bovan ran to the plant, shielding it with his body through the night as the skies unleashed their fury. The next morning, trees lay broken, homes soaked, but the seedling still stood, slightly bent but alive like its guardian, Bovan, who woke soaked, smiling with mud in his teeth. Inspired, Kavi brought more seeds from old sacks. Together, they began planting a dozen sprouts with Bovan's same love, singing under a sun that suddenly felt kinder. Other villagers watched silently, some marked again. But one old woman joined, then 2 boys, and slowly, Bovan's garden began to grow in both size and spirit. By season's end, a lush patch of green dotted the brown landscape. The scent of new life mixing with dusty wine's proof that persistence rewrites every prophecy. The village council visited and asked Bovan to teach farming to the youth. He said, "Farming is not just hands and seeds, it's heart and stubborn faith." Kavi took over the garden as Bovan rested more. "Father," he said one morning, "you planted more than crops, you planted courage in barren hearts." Years passed, that garden fed, not just stomachs, but ideas. Girls studied under its trees, boys read books near the vines. It became the village's classroom, temple, and playground. The government offered Bovan awards, but he simply requested a water well and more seeds for everyone. "Glory," he said, "is in giving, not collecting." Even when Bovan's legs grew weak and he could no longer bend, his voice remained strong, urging all who visited to believe in what cannot yet be seen. Tourists came to see the miracle garden, but Bovan told them this was no miracle. Just one man's refusal to give up when everyone else already had. In his final days, Bovan sat in the garden, the scent of blossoms around him, birds singing above, proof that hard work, watered with belief, could outlive even time. After Bovan passed away, Kavi created a library beside the garden and called it the Seed House, where stories of courage and struggle bloomed for generations. Children came from other villages, not to learn just farming but to learn hope. And they carried home seeds wrapped in Bovan's story, ready to grow gardens of their own. One girl, Mira, cried reading his journal. She returned home, found an empty patch of land, and began to dig. "I'll grow courage here," she whispered, echoing Bovan's legacy. Kavi stood by the garden years later, now older, surrounded by rows of sunflowers. "Father," he said to the sky, "your single seed has grown into thousands of hearts." A documentary was made, showing the before and after of the village. The world watched, stunned by the transformation born from an old man's impossible dream. Bovan's statue was built not in the city, but in the middle of the garden, smiling, holding a seed, as if to say, "What will you plant today?" Storms came and went, years flew by, but the garden never stopped growing. It had become more than soil, and roots, it was now the soul of the village. Even the skeptical villagers who once marked told their grandchildren, "Bovan taught us that even dust can bloom if watered with faith." On the garden's 50th year, Kavi invited all who had ever planted a seed. Thousands came, many brought seeds in tiny jars, ready to plant on sacred soil. Mira, now a teacher, whispered to her students, "Even if no one claps for you, keep watering your dreams. One day, they'll feed the world. The story spread across books and classrooms, reminding students that change doesn't arrive quickly, but with enough heart, it always arrives eventually. Newspapers called Boven the seed man of hope, but his tombstone simply read, he believed in one seed more than others believed in an entire field. The village that once had no rain became a symbol of rebirth. Young couples married in the garden, believing that anything started with love would grow strong. Boven's granddaughter once asked, "Grandpa, why a seed?" Cabby answered, "Because it carries everything in silence: hope, hunger, patience, and strength," just like he did. Every year, the village held the planting festival. Children dressed as seeds, farmers danced, and elders told Boven's story around the fire under stark-kissed skies. When things go wrong in nearby villages, people say, "Let's find our seed like Boven did," knowing that the smallest beginning often holds the biggest endings. Boven's journal, kept in the library, ends with one line, "I didn't grow a plant, I grew belief that no season is stronger than a determined heart." And so, the village thrived roots deep in love, branches reaching toward possibility, each leaf whispering Boven's truth to the winds. They say if you sit silently near the garden at dawn, you can hear Boven's voice in the rustling leaves. Don't wait for the rain, be your own storm. This is the story of a single seed and a man who dared to plant it. May it grow in you too, and may you pass it on.